part of it. Uh, we're learning. We're trying to get better. I like facing adversity. I like being down, being knocked down. Because that's the only way you improve.
Something very likable about Giannis' whole energy. Stephen A., what's wrong with the Bucks?
Well, right now, their defense is ranked like 20th in the National Basketball Association. We're not accustomed to seeing a Mike Budenholzer team struggle defensively. And clearly, injury to Drew Holiday doesn't help matters because obviously he's an elite defender in this game. We understand that. The flip side to it is that if you're the Milwaukee Bucks, you opened your mouth and messed up, and as a result, nixed the deal that would have landed you Bogdanovich, and that was a huge, huge loss for them because if he were on this team with Drew Holiday, I think we'd be speaking a little bit differently about Milwaukee right now, but he's not. You still have Drew Holiday, you've got Giannis, you've got Chris Middleton, and the rest of the crew, and you've lost 5 straight, you're middle of the pack, and I think that and I don't expect that things will continue to go this way, Max. I'm not trying to say that, nor am I trying to endorse what I'm about to acknowledge, and that is this. I think Mike Budenholzer, the coach, could be in trouble. At some point in time, here's the reality of the situation. Mike Budenholzer, coach of the year in Atlanta, coach of the year in Milwaukee. I think he's an exceptional coach personally. He clearly knows what he's doing. But in the end, come postseason time, what do you have to show for it? And at the end of the day, when you've got Giannis Antetokounmpo and you just signed him to this exorbitant deal, and you've got Chris Middleton in tow, and you've got Drew Holiday in tow, and what have you, there are expectations. You went to the Eastern Conference Finals against Toronto a couple of years ago. You were up 2-0. Wet the bed, lost 4 straight. Last year in the bubble, you got blitzed by a Miami squad in 5 games. Now you're struggling again. At some point in time, people are going to look at Giannis Antetokounmpo, and they're going to sit up there and say, you got the Greek freak here. What the hell are you going to do with it? We're not just interested in getting to the regular season and going home. We want to really, really make a championship push, and questions are going to be asked whether or not Mike Budenholzer is that guy. I want to emphasize, I'm not one of those people. I believe in the man. I like him a lot. I think he's an exceptional coach, etc. But you do have a bunch of people clamoring for opportunities to coach a talent like Giannis Antetokounmpo. It's the world of professional sports. And when you've had opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to get it done, and not only do you come up short, but you seem to be regressing. You lose in the conference finals one year. You lose in the semifinals the next. Now you're sitting there and we're talking about Brooklyn and Philadelphia, and we're not even talking about you. If that trend continues, if you're the Milwaukee Bucks, you spent all the money you can spend. Now it gets to a point where we got to look in another direction because we're supposed to have the personnel that's suited for better than this. And that means you're going to look at the direction of the coach.
I want to talk about Budenholzer because in Atlanta they won 60 games, but Stephen A., they didn't have a superstar on that team. So they flamed out in the playoffs, probably worse than they ought to have flamed out. But we understand playoffs.
They got swept by LeBron. They got swept by LeBron.
And it's superstar time. You don't have a guy like that. But he has a guy like that in Milwaukee. He doesn't really have a second banana good enough. I keep saying the dominant big needs a guy who's not a big, who's just as good as him. Shaq needed Kobe and a prime D. Wade. Even Penny wasn't good enough. Kareem needed Oscar Robertson and Magic Johnson. Got no championships without them. Giannis needs a guy like that. I don't know if Drew Holiday is that kind of player, but he's an excellent player, and the losing streak coincides with his absence because of COVID protocol, right? So that's the short answer. Drew Holiday is not there. But I want to talk about Budenholzer because I think what you're talking about is what we're seeing from the Bucks right now. Budenholzer's doing something that requires real intestinal fortitude here. He's heard, I'm sure, what people are saying, and not only that, he sees what they're saying is correct. If you can win 60-plus games in the regular season, why are you getting bounced out? Even if you don't win the championship, before you ought to get bounced out in the playoffs, because the playoffs are different. And what he's decided is, look, we can't play offense and defense the same way we've been doing it. It doesn't work given the personnel we have, not to the tune of a championship or even getting to a championship, getting to the finals. So what is he doing? He's making changes, using the regular season to experiment, to see if he can make those changes. On offense, Giannis is not initiating everything. So that takes some getting used to, particularly when Drew Holiday is not there. On defense, they're trying to learn how to switch. They're not funneling everything to Giannis and Brook Lopez, and that takes time to learn. If you watch the Bucks, you see a lack of urgency in terms of the way they play. And I was thinking about this a lot. Like, of all the teams who should be playing with urgency, this team has flamed out in the playoffs a couple years in a row now. Why? And it's not exactly a lack of urgency. It's that they're in a learning phase. They're in an experimental learning phase on both sides of the ball, on offense and on defense. They're trying to figure out, can we be effective switching, not funneling everything to our bigs? And can we run a championship caliber offense when Giannis isn't the guy doing all of the initiating on offense? So all the stuff that comes easy to them, reflect, quickly to them, that's muscle memory to them because they've been doing it, that's not there as much. And what's there in place is, hey, let's try this, let's try that, let's see what works. I think that's what's happening. Budenholzer's doing what you're saying. He's trying to figure it out in the playoffs. He's using the regular season to do it.
Well, I appreciate your explanation. My response is no one's going to give a damn when all is said and done. This is a man that is a two-time coach of the year. He was one coach of the year in 2014, 2015, winning 60 games in Atlanta. 2018, 2019, he won 60 games in Milwaukee. He's won 71% of his games in Milwaukee over the last 3 years. He's won 58% of his games in his career. He's taken his team to the playoffs 6 times in 8 years. All of those things are recognized as after serving for 2 decades as an assistant to the great Greg Popovich. We know that Mike Budenholzer can coach. We understand that he's an exceptional coach. And I think Milwaukee knows that, and Milwaukee's happy to have him. I'm just saying that when you're a small market team, at least to some degree, and you went out and you've spent this money on a superstar talent like Giannis Antetokounmpo, and you've put pieces around him that you believe should have you in title contention. If you continue to come up short, and you're going in the wrong direction, meaning that you're going to the conference finals 1 year and then you don't make it the next couple of years, etc. Somebody's going to look at the coach because they have no choice.
Yeah.
Because there's nowhere else to look.
And that's right.
He's trying to do something about it, but it better work, Max. That's what I'm saying. It better work.
So what's really wrong with Giannis and the Bucks is they don't have Bradley Beal on that team. They did as well as they thought they could do. They didn't get Chris Paul. They got Drew Holiday.
Hold on.
Who's a very good player. But
I told you that before. You didn't want to listen. I told you that before. You didn't want to listen. You was calling Giannis the best player in the world, and then he went from 3 to number 5 and 4, or number 1 to number 5 in 4 days. I told you the brother needed another shooter. You didn't want to listen. You said he's enough.
And I said needs someone else as good as them if they're a big.
From
you didn't want to listen.
winning 5 straight by double digits to losing 5 straight. All right. All I know is Doc Rivers and the Sixers are doing their thing. Kyrie Irving, talk that talk.